Hi guys, it's Barbara Girl, and welcome to another episode of R&R. I apologize for the gap, or the rushness more, of how this video, the next video, and the following video are going to have to be, because my computer, or YouTube, or a connection of both, may be working together in cahoots, decided to hate me, or my video. So, the last video was meant to come up Wednesday. Actually, I intended Tuesday, but I was really sick. And it didn't get online till nearly Saturday morning. The very end of Friday. So, I apologize for that. So, the next 3 videos, including this one, to be a bit rushed. So today's episode is for the chapter King's Cross. And admittedly, this is a very confusing, strange chapter. And I can see kind of from a writing perspective that you'd want it to be a little odd. And it is Dumbledore doing a lot of talking and explanation, and he's odd. But speaking as someone that absolutely adores J.K. Rowling, loves Harry Potter with this fiery passion, which all of you guys know, obviously, because a giant percentage of my videos on this channel are all about Harry Potter. I have to say, I think this chapter is constructed least with care. What I'm saying is some things seem a little weird. There's also a few other points throughout the series where things feel very rushed in explanation. And here things feel rushed in explanation, but also don't make a bit of sense to some readers, and definitely some people going through the first time. Although I will express the fact that in 2007 when I read it, I still, understood what was going on. But now in 2011, I could look at it differently. But I still feel it's probably the most rushed and awkward chapter when we're going at it, critically. Again, love J.K. Rowling. Lots and lots and lots. Give her a giant hug if I ever meet her. Love J.K. Rowling. Okay. So the chapter starts and Harry is lying on the ground. And it takes him a while, or perhaps no time at all, because where he's at, time isn't linear, which is probably what it is. And he discovers that he isn't disembodied thought. He exists after his death. He exists. And that he is naked. And through the course of things, he understands that his will in this place creates things. So he has robes. And he also notices that in this place, which looks a lot like King's Cross, that he has no showings of the physical effects of evil on him. There is no scar. He is a perfectly sculpted, healthy looking, pure individual. In contrast, on the floor is this strange looking, almost like mangled child who is writhing in pain. And it disgusts Harry to look at it, even though he feels bad for the thing. He doesn't know what's going on. Obviously, this is the part of Voldemort's soul that died when Harry died from the Horcrux. And it's writhing in pain and suffering in the afterlife. In the course, Dumbledore is there, and they have this cool conversation. He does talk a bit about his sister, and it's kind of interesting when we're looking at the chapter, because Harry starts naked, and the idea that in death everything's stripped away, that things are clean and pure, and we're at who we are. It's stripped away. There's no more hiding. No more secrecy. And Dumbledore is just very open and regretful towards Harry because he recognizes Harry was the better man out of the two of them, regretful about what happened to his sister. And there's also this interesting thing because obviously from the conversation Dumbledore has with Harry, he recognizes that Harry has done things since his death. So, according to Joe's world, it appears that in death, people know what's going on in the world. However, they don't know everything about themselves or things that happen in the course of their lives, which is interesting and kind of cool. And Dumbledore explains that he felt he wasn't worthy of carrying all the Hallows because of definitely some issues in his youth, and that the wand was the least important of all of them. He got the cloak from Harry's dad shortly before Harry's dad's death because he was just checking it out, looking at it. And when he tried to use the stone, he got himself cursed because he wasn't thinking about the Horcrux. And he was so enamored by the idea of getting to use the stone that he sealed his own fate for his death. And he tells Harry that he should have trusted Harry more, and that he's the only person that really was qualified to have all the Hallows. Also explains a bit about the Elder Wand, and that it wasn't intended for Draco to have, but intended for Snape to have, but Draco, of course, the Expelliarmus, so it became Draco's, and then in turn became Harry's, and this is where things get sort of confusing because Dumbledore is explaining whether Harry is dead or not. Harry, and this is also going a bit off what I've heard as J.K. Rowling's interpretation, but off of fan sites, so you can never be entirely sure. And I'm definitely gonna, it's pretty much the same as my initial concept from 2007, so. Okay, because Harry got Avada Kedavra with the Elder Wand, which is technically under Harry's control because he defeated Draco Malfoy, who had defeated Dumbledore, who was the original master of the wand. He is kind of in limbo at the moment. And it's also not just that. Avada Kedavra is powerful enough to bring him there, but doesn't necessarily allow him to stay there because of Lily's sacrifice. And again, as I pointed out in my last video, sacrifice is this huge theme throughout the series, and love is the theme, and giving of your life to save others is the total theme of Harry Potter. It starts from Lily and ends with Harry bookending it. And because of Lily's sacrifice, there's the power there. And it lives in Harry's blood. But if we remember in book 4, Voldemort decided to use Harry's blood in the ritual to give himself a body. Which means that Lily's blood still flows. So Harry now in the limbo of afterlife, although Dumbledore is saying he's not dead, it's because his blood is still alive in Voldemort. So his blood still flows, although his body's currently dead, his blood is still living in another person. So Harry's in the afterlife, and he has the choice because his blood is still flowing and Lily's protection is still there, if he wants to come back and fight Voldemort. It's totally his choice. And Harry feels comfort in the afterlife. There's definitely this peace and happiness, and it's written that his choice to go in the forest and die was hard, and his choice to leave isn't as hard, but it's still very hard. He says goodbye to Dumbledore, basically, and before he leaves Keen's Cross, which is used as a open metaphor. It's written in the novel, saying he can do the train off to afterlife or go on. Harry asks whether or not this was real or in his head, and Dumbledore says, of course it was all in your head, but it doesn't mean it isn't real. Which makes me wonder certain aspects of J.K. Rowling's world's version of the afterlife. I wonder, because Dumbledore doesn't know they're at King's Cross, if the will, your mind in the afterlife, or your essence or whatever, is what controls your perception of the afterlife. And so, maybe what Dumbledore means there is Dumbledore would see something completely different, where he's at maybe his home or his office at Hogwarts or some other place that meant something special to him. But Harry sees King's Cross because it has this emotional power where he's at. His clothes appear because he wills it. So I wonder if the will is what creates your perception in the afterlife in Jo's world, and therefore when he says, of course it's all in your mind, it doesn't mean it's real. It's actually kind of discussing that your mind is what creates your perception of the reality of the afterlife. And there is a point where it says, don't pity the dead, pity those living. Don't pity the dead, pity the living. I'm going to screw up the quote, but pity the living who aren't living out life or something like that, as Harry asks if he can help the bit of Voldemort's soul on the floor. And so we see this really powerful point because our fate's kind of sealed once we hit death. So this bit of Voldemort's soul is in agony, suffering, and basically in a position that's like, and so nothing can be done for the soul once it's hit the afterlife. From a Christian perspective, it's kind of an interesting idea because it's definitely pushing that you need to care about the souls of people who are living and concentrate on that, which is a huge Christian concept. Not like evangelism and stuff, but sidetrack. So this chapter, again, as I said, it's kind of confusing. He's dead, but not completely dead because the blood is still flowing in Voldemort, but his body is dead. Like, momentarily. As we'll see in the next chapter. But it's definitely a break from what's going on. And a kind of an interesting thing, that if you look at a chapter list of Book 7, is starting with, I believe, chapter 27, the final hiding place, or the last hiding place, which is, the beginning of, it's the journey back to Hogwarts, which is the beginning of, till the forest again. All these chapters, 27 through 34, I believe it's 27, don't shoot me if I'm wrong, all begin with the word the. And then we hit King's Cross, which doesn't have the word the. And then our next chapter is going to have the word the again. So it feels like this is the battle, this is the intensity of life, all with the is the beginning of it. From coming back, heading towards Hogwarts, getting to Hogsmeade, in Hogwarts, looking for Horcruxes, going down the forest and dying. And then it has this strange break with King's Cross, and it kind of shows that it's outside of what's going on. It is separate. It is in another realm, which is kind of an interesting idea. It could just be me thinking something that's not there, but it is kind of intriguing that there's so many chapters in a row that start with the same word.